everybody, how's it going? It's the Daily Shooter, and today we're going to be taking a look at what I would consider to be the toughest 1-8 on the market today. This is the Trijicon VCOG 1-8. Okay, so the Trijicon VCOG 1-8x28. Easily, hands down, one of the best optics I've ever reviewed on this channel. This thing is a beast. It is as tough as you're gonna get. Made out of 7075 T6 aluminum with a really thick 34mm body. This thing is good to go. I'd put it on the same level of durability as like an L-can. Though typically when you're talking about a 1-6 or a 1-8, companies will design those optics for the competition shooter in mind. Somebody who's gonna do 3-gun or something like that. And so you end up with an optic that's supposed to be light, it's supposed to be durable, but at the same time, durability isn't the main focus. This thing was actually built from the ground up to be a combat optic. VCOG stands for Variable Combat Optical Gun Sight. So this thing, again, was built from the integrated mount all the way up to the material that they use for the glass, the housing, and so forth to be a combat optic, and that's what you get here. So it has got some great features. One of the things I like about this is that there's nothing I would change in terms of a combat optic. If you were going to take this and use it as like a 3-gun optic, then there are some things that I would change. But again, if you're going to be using this as a hardened optic that you want to make sure that you have something that you can defend your life with, then yeah, there's nothing that I would change about this. Okay, so now let's go over some of the tech specs, details, and features of this optic. Again, this is a 1-8x28. So at 1x, this is supposed to have no magnification whatsoever. But typically in scopes of this type, you usually end up with a little bit of variation between 1.1 and 1.2 magnification. So there's a little bit of magnification when you're shooting with both eyes open. Sometimes you could see two different sizes of the object that you're looking at. With the VCOG, it's as close to 1x as I've ever seen, meaning that I can shoot with both eyes open when this thing's all the way down to 1x, and the target looks exactly the same through both eyes. So it is as true of a 1x as I've ever seen. But then again, you have the ability to dial it all the way up to 8 power, and at 8 power, I mean, you could really reach out there. As far as I can see, it does have a ballistic drop reticle with a first focal plane reticle. So basically what we have is a segmented circle. So there's 4 different segments of the circle at the 10 o'clock, the 2 o'clock, the 4 o'clock, and then the 8 o'clock position. So you have these segments in your circle. In the middle of that, there is a smaller reticle with some bullet drop compensating hash marks and stuff like that on it. I tried to get some video of it, but apparently I didn't have the camera installed on the back of the scope correctly, and so the image isn't exactly what I want. Most of the shooting that I did was in 4 to 5 power, depending on what distance I was shooting, but you could see the reticle looking at it at 4.5 power, what it looks like. The reticle actually changes being first focal plane. So in 1x or at 1x, basically the reticle is just going to be a segmented circle. That's the majority of what you see, and you would use that to make your aim, right? But then as you zoom in with the first focal plane, the reticle enlarges, excuse me, and the segmented part of that circle becomes larger and almost, out of frame, and then you would actually use the reticle that is hard to see at 1x, which enlarges, and that gives you your ballistic drops and so forth. So again, you have a true CQB firearm that is also perfect for longer ranges, so that's fantastic. Plus we have a 28mm objective. Typically on a scope like this, you're looking at a 24mm objective.
Today we're talking about the ATN ThOR-HD. The ThOR-HD is a weapon-mounted rifle scope, quite similar to the X-Sight 2, where it's a digital scope with a Picatinny mount, but a little different in that it has a germanium front lens, which allows it to be used for thermal imaging purposes. Almost all the controls are going to be nearly identical to the X-Sight 2, where you have the objective focus, you have a diopter, and you have all your electronic controls on top with your battery storage and your SD card storage off to the side. The ThOR-HD comes in 2 different sensor resolutions. It has the 640 by 480, which is the higher resolution sensor, and it has the 384 by 288 sensor, which is a little bit lower resolution. With the higher resolution sensor, you can get away with a larger magnification range because as you dial up to those higher magnifications, the resolution's going to hold better and you're not going to get as grainy or as pixelated of a picture. With that lower resolution sensor, you do have a couple different options for your magnification range. Your models are going to be a 1.25 to 5x, a 2 to 8x, a 4.5 to 18x, and a 9 to 36x. That is digital zoom, but it does have a continuous zoom, so it's not going to step up in multiples. You do get that full range of zoom. So if you're looking to do any long range shooting or you want to zoom in closer on your target, you may be better off going with that higher resolution sensor because you're not going to get the same performance or the same magnification abilities out of the lower sensor unit.
Today we're going to be taking a look at the Vortex Diamondback Tactical. Now this is a 6-24 by 50. This is an MOA. Now this optic is very popular. It came out just about a year and a bit ago. Now it's very popular for a very good reason. It's a very affordable, high quality first focal plane optic, which is what the market has been demanding for years. Now this one, the MSRP is about $500, but you can find it as low as about $350 US if it's really on sale. Usually it's around $400. This optic has ED glass, which is probably one of the best features on it. So ED glass, a glass etched reticle with the EBR2C reticle. It's got a very long eye relief. I mean, this has 3.9 inches of eye relief, which we're going to get to in just a moment. So without further ado, let's start off this review. Let's start with the glass, which is probably the second most important thing on any optic. So for the glass quality, as I said earlier, it has ED glass, which is extra low dispersion. So, I mean, for glass quality, have a look for yourselves. Today we're going to be reviewing the Sightmark Latitude PRS 6.25 to 25 by 56. Now this optic has all the bells and whistles you could possibly dream of, you could possibly desire. It has it all. It's got a 56mm objective, so it's going to be fairly bright. It's got a 34mm tube, which is going to house a ton of internal adjustment, 110 MOA or 31 mils, which is a lot. It's got a zero stop, really positive audible clicks. I mean, what more could you want? It's got a wide magnification range and an extremely long eye relief. So let's start this review off with, well, let's just talk about the price. So in the United States, it's about $650, or in Canada at the unreasonable price of, this is just one that I've found, $1,500, which is way beyond the exchange rate. Just saying. And as I said, in the States, you can find it at $650, which is a very reasonable price for what it is. So let's talk about the glass quality. Now, a 56mm objective should bring you a really bright image, regardless of how sharp the image is. So that's typically what that should do. Now, all in all, is this a good or fantastic optic? Well, it is a very, very good optic. One I would likely recommend. It's got really nice turrets. I mean, these are really, really nice. They may not be the most positive, but they feel very fine and very well refined.
Trijicon has just come out with a couple new reticles to add to that TA02 line. First, it's the Crosshair reticle, which they've had, which it initially came out with. Now it has a green illumination as well. They added the red and green chevron reticle, which we're used to in the TA31F, and also the horseshoe style reticle, which has a dot in the center. I like all the reticles. The Crosshair reticle, it's a very fast reticle, just like the other ones, but if you're using it for bench rest shooting, not that it's designed for that, but if you like to go to the range and just sit and plink, you're gonna be potentially a little more accurate because of that Crosshair style. The chevron, it's what I was issued in the Army. It's extremely fast. At long range, it's perfect. The horseshoe is also a wickedly fast sight. It has a smaller 2 MOA dot in the center with the circle around it, so it kind of draws your attention right to that dot. Like I said before, they come in both green and red center illumination. It really comes down to personal preference. I grew up with the red chevron reticle in the Army, so that's what I'm used to. But some people like green, in more dynamic lighting conditions, that might come in handy. Some of the features of the TA02 in general, the reticle brightness adjustment is located on the side. Battery compartment up front takes a single AA battery, extremely long battery life. The turrets are finger adjustable and they have tethered turret covers, so you're not going to lose them while you're at the range zeroing. It's Trijicon ACOG. It's nothing but the best. It's extremely rugged, durable. I trust it with my life. Again, it's the TA02 with all those wicked cool new reticle options.